Hi, and welcome back to our short videos on business studies. We are in chapter 8, management and leadership. And in the last video, we spoke about management functions. But today, what we will uncover is about the Mintzberg's management roles. Mintzberg, or Henry Mintzberg, is basically a Canadian management expert who speaks a lot about how people work in organization and the various roles that they should carry. So without wasting any more time, let's look into that right now. Now, Mintzberg has broken down three big roles of a manager that he or she needs to carry in an organization, right? First is interpersonal, basically how a manager communicates between each other, from manager to employee to supplier to vendor, interpersonal role. Secondly, informational role, how a manager collects information, how they view information and how they disseminate that information to people around them in the organization and outside the organization. And decisional roles. A manager also makes decisions on a daily basis, and it is very important to make the right ones. So this is not all. These three big roles are further divided into 10 sub-managerial roles. As you can see, that will be flashing out on your screen right now. Interpersonal, a figurehead, leader, and a liaison. Alright, so a manager under the interpersonal category will need to be a figurehead for the organization, a leader, and also a liaison, right? On the informational portion, a manager will also need to be able to monitor, alright, to disseminate, or a disseminator, and to be a spokesperson of the company. In a decisional area, a manager will have to act or behave like an entrepreneur, handles all disturbances, and a resource allocator, I think that's quite familiar to you, as well as negotiator for the company. So as you can see, there are three main big roles, which are interpersonal, informational, and decisional. And Mintzberg has broken down each category into smaller roles that a manager needs to play. And this comes up to about 10 sub roles of a manager under Mintzberg's identification. Now, as you can probably guess, what I'll need you to do is to try and start this on your own to identify, right, what each sub role means. Okay, and as usual, there'll be an activity here. I have listed all the 10 categories, as you can see. And negotiator. And what I've also done is add a description to each role, which is basically jumbled up again. What I mean is the description to each role is not correct, right? So I'm going to leave you some time here to actually rearrange the correct description to the correct role, right? You may not know this, or you may know this, and it's okay to be making mistakes, but take some time to just try and figure out before we discuss further in the next slide for the answers. Okay, now let's check your answers, and let me put this all back on the slide. Interpersonal, informational, decisional. Let's look at interpersonal first of all. Under figurehead, leader and liaison, monitor, disseminator, and spokesperson under informational, under decisional, entrepreneur, disturbance handler, resource allocator, and negotiator. So let's look at the answer under interpersonal first of all. What is the description of a figurehead? It is a symbolic leader, a person or a figure that represents the company. So that refers to a figurehead. If you got this right, that's good. A symbolic leader or a person or a figure who represents the company in terms of communicating, in terms of, representing the company. A figurehead is a symbolic leader. And under interpersonal, leadership is defined as a motivator. Right, a person who needs to be able to motivate, to communicate, to engage employees to be able to reach a particular goal. And a leader or a manager would also need to play a role of a liaison, all right, which is basically a main person or in leading and chairing meetings to be able to represent the company in terms of, such meetings and so forth. Under informational, there are three roles: monitor, disseminator, and spokesperson. As a monitor, a manager will need to be able to monitor what's happening around them in terms of news that could affect the business. So they need to be able to collect information for the company. Not only that, they will need to be able to disseminate that information or making that information available to people. And when there is a need, they are also a spokesperson to people inside and outside the company, external communicator, all right, to be the main spokesperson, to be the main person who will inform people about what's happening. Now, in terms of decisional, an entrepreneur also plays a very critical role of coming up with new ideas, right, to be able to decide on what is latest and what is new. So they need to be playing a figure of an entrepreneur as well. All right. At the same time, they will need to be able to manage all kinds of disturbances that the businesses may face. So they need to be able to respond to change. These are parts of making decisions, how they respond, what kind of decisions to make. So they need to be able to respond to change. At the same time, they are a resource allocator. All right, because they decide on how money should be spent on various resources of the company in terms of hiring, in terms of marketing expenses, and so forth. And a manager is also a negotiator because they are the ones who represent the company, all right, in terms of negotiating deals, making decision on, the vendors to choose and so forth. So they are a negotiator. They represent the company in deal making, in discussions of a better price, so to speak, right? So there you go. You have all 10 managerial roles, all right, with a description to each role to help you understand better what are those roles and what do they mean. Okay, I hope you have were able to do it, and if there are some mistakes here and there, not to worry. It's always about practice and revision, and this is just a slide to help you understand better. So this is a slide where we normally talk about what we have covered today, or our take-home points for today. All right, you were able, I hope, hopefully, to identify the various roles of a manager under what Mintzberg has characterized for you, and also you were able to explain what each role means through the activity that we have done earlier. And this shows that it is the end of my class for today. If you have any concerns or questions, my email address is on the slide for you to write to me. And I hope you were able to capture a few things in today's class. And do not give up. It's not easy, but practice makes perfect. Revise, revise, revise. Until I see you in the next video, have a beautiful day.